So you're going to see massive swings in prices for the food coming up. And those nations that import, oh my, are they going to have a difficult time getting said product, commodity, but then shipping it and the price spikes and swings within, ouch.
Adapt 2030 Mini Ice Age Conversations covers changes in our climate due to a new and intensifying grand solar minimum, and the media overlooking, downplaying, or burying cold weather changes occurring on our planet. This is in order to keep the global warming agenda steaming full speed ahead. I do this podcast and radio program because we need to begin conversations on how to adapt our food growing strategies long before 2030 as agricultural zones shift, affecting global crop output, but very few mainstream media outlets are talking about the most important issue of our time: cold weather crop losses. Our sun is going through a 400-year cycle, which has effects on our weather patterns as our magnetosphere weakens and the jet streams go out of flow. It's not CO2, it's not you, it's the sun. Are you ready to thrive in the Grand Solar Minimum? Then join me for Mini Ice Age Conversations. I'm your host, David DuByne.
Not investment advice, but oats is the canary in the coal mine, if you will. Oats are very susceptible to any kind of swings at all in temperature and moisture patterns. So if you want to keep an eye on the rest of the markets, keep looking at the oats. Read as much as you can about oats production, oats sowing, oats reaping, whatever it is. Because oats are the canary in the coal mine for us as a global agricultural society. As the oats go, so does our society go. And I myself, again, not investment advice, but I myself am looking at somewhere around 2020 call long. Because these prices and these weather anomalies are just going to keep getting worse year by year. Like, we're in the first year. So like I said in the beginning of the program, we have rolled over. This is it. Mark this in your calendar. We've stepped out of our old world and we're beginning the decline into this grand solar minimum agriculturally, economically, and societally. So if your food price doubles and triples, you're going to have to pull that out of somewhere else. That money that you used to spend into other things, whatever thing it is, and it could be a good, a service, or a thing. New electronics, travel, holidays, restaurants, movies, home redecoration, furniture. You're going to pull that money and you're going to spend it in food now. So what's going to happen to the rest of the periphery industries across our greater global economy? How about the regional economy? How about your local city economy? Where are you going to pull from first? Because those local businesses, those are going to be felt first because you're going to stop spending there. Now, a lot of these international type of products, well, you could do without from Walmart or whatever. I'm sure we're going to start to see how long things last because we're just going to stop buying them. A good indication is 2008, 9, 10 as well. Remember the global financial crisis, 2008, 9, 10, when commodities prices spiked? That might be a good indicator on where we're heading with the prices and how quickly. So there's a couple times you want to look at. You want to look at the Great Midwest Flood back in the 1990s. To take a look at how the prices spiked in the Great Midwest Flood. It was the biggest flood ever recorded at that time. And yes, there was still paper trading going on in the commodities markets, so you can get a good indicator of, all right, what were the prices pre-flood and what were the prices post-flood? Now, since the prices were higher back then anyway, all you have to do is take that percentage and just move it over into today, and then we can start to see where there might be a baseline. And I already did that for you. That's why I call it a 750. Moving forward, though, like what will happen next year is going to be the indicator of where we're going, truly. So we already understand what happened this year. This is a huge wake-up call. Like, we're not going to grow enough food for this planet. You understand that? Please understand. That's the whole thing about this program today. This is the indicator that I myself was looking for. Christian Ice Age Farmer, Diamond and Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Christopher Martz, Ice Age 2050, the climate guy out of DC.
And speaking of cycles, my new book with my co-author Bill Porter, Climate Revolution, a must-read for understanding our sun-driven climate. As we progress deeper into this new Eddy Grand Solar Minimum, weather extremes leading to global food scarcity and higher food prices are here now. This book describes the expected changes, how to survive and thrive during future challenging times, and also practical preparations. The entire book is interactive with over 250 links, so you can click and go out to the scientific aspect of what we're talking about with the repeating cycles in this Grand Solar Minimum. The science is explained so you understand the mechanisms. The solutions are there because we know we're going to face these exact same problems again that were faced in the Maunder Minimum, the Sporer Minimum, the Wolf Minimum. Find designs for building greenhouses, grow guides, beam soil techniques, as well as bioreactors to create your own growth hormones for the soil. Available now, the new Adapt 2030 Climate Revolution. The link's in the description box below.
Everybody's been looking for these food price. Jake and Mari over at Grand Solar Minimum as well, they're taking a look at the food prices, and everybody that's in this arena, Ben over at Suspicious Observers, they're all calling. When the first food shocks hit, it's going to be a permanent thing for the next decade and a half. Everybody's been looking for the first year of loss just like this, because this is now our timeline moving forward. The next year will indicate for sure 100% where we are in that. If we get another gargantuan loss like next year, well, it's anticipated that 2021 through 2024 are already set to be the most catastrophic growing years ever in the last 400 years. So if you can peg it into a time of food insecurity and the scariest years ever for agriculture in the last 400 years, it's going to be 2021 to 2024. And here we are. We got the first food spikes right now, first losses. If it rolls over in 2020 and we get the same exact kind of losses again, I tell you what, we are going to have famines by 2025. There won't be enough food on the planet. So I'm curious what they're going to do with the futures market at that point, because things are going to be trading at $100 by then. It won't be $3.63. It'll be $30.63, $90.63. And again, whoever has the most money is going to win. And whoever can grow it and then deliver it to market is going to be the winner as well. Who's going to be able to pay that much for food? Now, Valentina Zarkova, and I keep talking about Valentina Zarkova because if you take a look at their reports coming out with the double dynamo in the sun and then how she presented at the Global Warming Policy Foundation, she, at that point, was very silent up to the day, and then very few people could get an interview with her. And when she talked in an interview, she was always like, yeah, Grand Solar Minimum, it's here, but, She would never say anything on the record about how intense it was going to get until 6 months ago. And she came out blankly and said, I call on all governments today to stockpile food for the global famine from 2028 to 2032. Now, that's a huge statement for a scientist to come out and say we're going to go into a global famine where we're only going to grow less than half of what we can grow today in 2028. So if we're moving the timeline forward to that point, and she even said in some extreme cases, regionally, not globally, regionally, some areas are only going to be able to grow 20% of what they grow today. So if you're going to grow 100 bushels, you're going to get 20 bushels. Globally, they're looking at 50 to 60% less globally than we're growing today. And that was Valentina's own words. So she was calling on governments to stockpile food right now to get ready for the lean years coming up in 2028. So she's like, you got 10 years left. And she said the same thing. Look at this year's harvest to get an indication on how fast it's going to drop out. Well, if this is any indication on how fast it's going to drop out, we are in some serious trouble and nobody's talking about it. If next year hits just like this, I would seriously withdraw every single cent you had out of all your retirement accounts, all your bank accounts. Just go buy food, long-term food storage, seeds, anything you can use to help you grow food, because at that point it won't matter. Because the food prices will be so exponential and there'll be so many shortages where people can't even get what they want because it just won't be available. Just won't be available. So these are kind of roll-ins, what we're looking for, and myself and my crew of people and the same community I'm involved in here that talks about this. This is it. This is what we've been looking for, is the start of the losses. This is it, finally. We got the start date right now. This is it. So now you can put a real good timeline in, so please be careful. And if you're not prepping, you should start thinking about what you're going to do in terms of your own food security personally, because the government's not going to help you. You're out on your own, for sure. Nobody's been warning you up to this point. They're sure as hell not going to warn you when it comes up in these next years when food gets super scarce. You're on your own. If you buy that package of seeds, not only to get tens of thousands of seeds in there, grow guides and how to grow everything that's involved in the seed pack there. So if they're talking about pumpkins, you get a guide on how to grow pumpkins, how to preserve pumpkins, and they have everything that you need to grow out a full acre to keep your body healthy, full of nutrients and nutrition, minerals, vitamins, etc. Because, that's, again, when we look back in the history, that's the thing that made people sick and why the plagues swept through. People's bodies just got too weak from not enough food. So, simple things that we can resist today, just not even thinking about it. We don't even need a vaccine to resist the Black Death. But take you down with no food for year upon year and eating minimal, eating grass and just barely getting by and super skinny and immune systems barely mineralized. You're going to get sick from things that you wouldn't even think about today. So growing your own food is going to be a major, major part of moving forward. And, what kind of foods are going to keep you healthy? You got to think about vitamins, minerals from your own grown food.
TrueLeafMarket.com. I really want to talk about growing your own food, which will be a necessity moving forward. And there's so many ways that we can go about growing different types of vegetables that we're going to need. Microgreens are incredibly nutritious. They're super fast to grow. In less than a week, you can have something that you can eat. Also, sprouts. We can get those a little bit taller, a little more dense, a little bit larger volume on the vegetation mass coming off of there. So how do you know what kind of sprouts to grow? How about wheatgrass or herbs? What about different types of herbs that we can add to our foods? Now, what I just described to you, there's a full range of starter guides there at TrueLeafMarket.com for you to take a look at. Even if it's just for your own knowledge and you don't purchase something from them, at least get the information so you know how to grow microgreens, you know how to grow sprouts, you understand what some of the herbs are for. TrueLeafMarket.com. Use the link below and give yourself the gift of organic and heirloom seeds.
Because things are going to start moving off the shelf. And I encourage you to do like a food log, if you will. So when you go shopping, as you're strolling through the aisles, take a nice little indication of what is disappearing off the shelves. Because what they'll do is they'll fill in the rest of the shelf. So if one thing disappears, what they'll do, let's say we have 4 products. We got a green product, a red product, a purple product, and a blue product. Well, if 2 of those disappear, all you'll see is like red and green, but it'll spread over the entire distance of what would have been 4 products on the shelf. Still looks full, but there's way less choice. And the depth of the cans or the depth of the boxes will be less as well, because they're just spreading it out. So instead of it being like 8 deep, you might find it 2 or 3 deep, but spreading over a wider circumference. And you know what? In the future, I really think this is going to happen. I think they're going to start removing parts of those aisles so it appears that it's still full. So if you ever go back in your supermarket and you go, whoa, it looks way bigger in here. It looks like they got more space. Or they suddenly remodel and they close down for a weekend or a week and you come back and it looks totally different inside. Take a look at how long the aisles are, because I bet they've shortened the aisles to make it appear as if there's more food inside there. Still a fully stocked supermarket, but oops, 1/4 of the aisle length is gone. So they've reduced everything down. So last night I went out for hot pot. It's an Asian thing where you cook your own food. Super fun because, you get all the raw vegetables, raw meat, seafood, whatever, and then you put it in this boiling hot water. It's a nice broth inside this pot, and then you cook it until you like it for your exact type of cooking. I like some of my seafood cooked a little more. I like some of my meat a little bit harder in the water after it cooks out. But what I noticed, less squid on the plate for the same price. Mushrooms, smaller amount of mushrooms, but the price was the same. Pork, looking good. You know why? Because everybody wants to get rid of the pork because of the Asian swine flu. So people don't really want to buy pork, so there's a plethora of it, and they give you extra just because they want to get rid of it too. So there's going to be some push and pull in these diseased animal type of thing here. So the pork, obviously not diseased, but, globally, it just doesn't have the best reputation right now, pork. China confirmed to kill 300 million pigs already. 300 million. That's more than the entire production of the United States for an entire year. So pork, nobody wants to touch it really. It's not like a number one thing people look for. I prefer goat. But you can see they call it shrinkflation, where the things cost the same price, but then the amount of food decreases. I'm going to jump you over here to Electroverse, because what I found was a map of the United States. 2019 rain so far. And what they're doing is tabulating how much rain has fallen in the first few months of 2019 compared to the normal baseline over the last 30 years. Southeast U.S., only half of what they normally get. Again, it's super baking down there. So if that rain ceases, our crops in the southeast U.S. are going to take a beating. It's just as tumultuous for a crop with no rain or extremely limited rain compared to being flooded out. Same crop stress, but just different mechanism. So what I'm taking a look is northwest of Marquette, Michigan, way up in the Upper Peninsula up there. If you come back into Minnesota and you take a look and keep going out west into the Dakotas, Montana, massive above normal. And again, we got the whole Iowa, Nebraska thing there. So that whole band up in the entire, almost everything up around the Canadian border from Upper Peninsula all the way over to Montana, way above normal. And then what's most interesting for me is the Sierra Nevada range is like the darkest green, over 200 plus. So more than double the amount of rainfall ever recorded there. So you can see the stark green straight line. That's the Sierra Nevada mountains. All-time record snowpack up there. And then just when you get over across the Sierra Nevadas over into the desert southwest of the Four Corners area, over double the amount of rainfall. So the whole desert southwest is definitely becoming a green grow zone. Expected grand solar minimum, moisture pattern shift for sure. But now we're starting to see where the rains are bunching up, where the new grow zones will be. And that's a perfect grow zone. Got sandy loam, aerated soil, warm temperatures all year round, baking sunshine, and now they got an enormous amount of rain. Now if it sticks for the next year, this is the second year it's happened. Remember last year, Sierra Nevada mountains also had all-time record snows, but then this year broke that record. So when we move forward, will it be for the third year in a row? Because if it is, then it's a trend, and that's what's going to happen. So the new zone will form right over there, and it's going to continue to grow and form on that spot. It's going to be a new grow zone. And also these rains seem to be bunching up around Marquette and northern Upper Peninsula and west of there because they've had the most days below 70 degrees ever recorded, but they also have the most rainfall and snowfall on the ground ever recorded for the most days. So you can start to see precipitation anomalies and temperature anomalies up there. Now, the wet and cold, not a good thing for crops, so I'm not saying it's going to be a grow zone, but Montana also, spring wheat's coming out of there. Dakotas, there's an enormous amount of rainfall up in that whole band up across the Canadian border. They were massively flooded out, so look for spring wheat prices to rise. Not investment advice. Spring wheat's traded in so few markets. I think it's only traded in 4 markets. So if you see where the spring wheat got flooded out, the prices are going to rise because there's so little of it produced anyway. So just even small declines there equal massive price movements in the spring wheat, massive floods. So I encourage you to take a look. Electroverse.net. The article goes into Twin Cities set new Memorial Day rainfall record. And that's what the whole thing's about, but they included this amazing graphic with that. Came out of Climate Central. The wettest April to April in United States history. May 2019 keeping up the pace as the sun's magnetic field continued just a weekend. This comes off Climate Central, and here they are talking about the grand solar minimum, decreasing magnetic field on the sun, outward pressure of the solar wind, and more cosmic rays penetrating our atmosphere. This is Climate Central. Now, when mainstream publications in the United States start to come out and talk about grand solar minimum, changes in the sun, more rain on our planet from cosmic rays, it's starting to hit the main time. Now they're trying to explain it in a real fashion here. Both the Twin Cities and Eau Claire, which I've mentioned these in many a video before with the record snowfalls prior years again and again and again. And here we are, record rain again, right in the summertime this time. Record snows in the winter. So here we go, Twin Cities, 1.83, the old record, 1977. Now you see that 1970s keeps repeating and repeating. Did you notice that? Because the solar activity is equaling the 70s. So I would imagine this winter we're going to see some massive blizzards across Buffalo and Chicago. So go back in the 1970s and take a look at where they had the most massive blizzards. I'm forecasting another massive blizzard season coming up because it's matching too precisely with all the 70s. Like everything you see with all the prior records set was the 1970s, like massive records, biggest ever. Well, they're all being broken now because the solar activity is matching with what was going on in the 1970s.
This video is brought to you by our friends at TrueLeafMarket.com. Heirloom and organic seeds for any grow zone on our planet.